After vanishing without a trace, Malaysia is once again resuming its search for the missing flight MH370.
11 years have passed, and the ocean has guarded its secret well, until now. From the abyss, a strange sonar pulse has emerged, stirring whispers of a discovery too haunting to ignore. At the center of this revelation is Dr. Vincent Lyne, a scientist who claims he has found a scar on the ocean floor, unlike any natural formation. Could this be the final resting place of MH370, or the beginning of a deeper mystery? A signal from the abyss. For more than a decade, the mystery of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 has lingered like a shadow over the modern age of aviation. Nearly 11 years have passed since the Boeing 777 vanished without a trace, leaving behind broken families, unanswered questions, and a silence that seemed to deepen with every passing year. Now, after so long, that silence may finally be giving way to something extraordinary. A signal from the depths of the Indian Ocean. Reports have emerged of a sonar anomaly, something unusual captured by Ocean Infinity's advanced fleet of autonomous underwater drones. These aren't ordinary machines. Each is equipped with some of the most powerful deep-sea scanning technology available, designed to probe thousands of meters below the ocean surface where light never reaches. This time, their search patterns revealed something different that stood out in a way that could change everything we know about the fate of MH370. At the center of this development is Dr. Vincent Lyne, a former researcher from the University of Tasmania. For years, Dr. Lyne has been studying the disappearance with a determination that has set him apart from many others. His focus has not been on speculation, but on data, satellite information, drift modeling, and most recently, terrain mapping of the ocean floor. In the middle of this work, he spotted something that made him stop, a single bright pixel in a global terrain model. To most eyes, it might look like nothing more than noise in the data, but to Lyne, it appeared as a significant anomaly that could correspond to the resting place of a Boeing 777. But this isn't the first time search teams thought they had stumbled on a breakthrough. Over the years, sonar blips, floating debris, and shifting hypotheses have created waves of hope and disappointment. Yet, what makes this anomaly different, according to reports, is how well it aligns with updated satellite tracking data and with drift analysis that studied the paths of confirmed MH370 debris found washed up on distant shores. Unlike previous leads that eventually fell apart under scrutiny, this anomaly sits in a location that fits the refined science more tightly. Analysts studying the signal have suggested that its acoustic profile, which refers to the way sound waves bounced back during the sonar sweep, carries the signature of large metallic debris. The ocean floor is filled with rocks, ridges, and countless natural formations, but the sharp reflective pattern recorded here hints at something distinctly unnatural, something manufactured. If that is true, then the anomaly may not simply be a geological quirk. It could represent the twisted, broken remains of MH370 itself. The possibility has electrified those who have followed this story. For the families of the 239 people who vanished that night in March 2014, every lead has been a cycle of hope and heartbreak. Yet, this time, there is a cautious optimism in the air. Investigators, aviation experts, and loved ones are watching closely. Could this be the moment they've been waiting for? The discovery that finally turns mystery into closure? Well, adding to the weight of this find is Dr. Lyne's long-standing theory about what really happened on that flight. He has argued that MH370's disappearance was not the result of a random accident. Instead, he believes that Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, the man at the controls that night, may have deliberately carried out one of the most haunting acts in aviation history. According to Lyne, the aircraft was flown intentionally into one of the most remote corners of the Indian Ocean, an area so vast and unforgiving that recovery was close to impossible. Now, with the anomaly detected, Lyne has suggested that the shape and features of the site are unlike anything caused by natural geological activity. What he describes is a crater, an impact zone, that bears the scars of a massive object striking the seabed at incredible force. To him, this is not a coincidence.
So that's why we believe it was not an accident.
It could be the final resting place of the jetliner, swallowed into the abyss. The implications are staggering. If this anomaly does represent MH370, then after years of endless searching, the truth may finally be within reach. But it also raises even more haunting questions. If Lyne's suspicions are correct, the crash was not the result of fate, weather, or mechanical failure, but something deliberate. That theory, if ever proven, would deepen the tragedy and rewrite the way the world remembers the event. And as attention shifts to this discovery, analysts are wondering how it was even possible to detect something so deep, so hidden, in waters that have swallowed every previous effort. The answer lies in the new technology, the next generation of sonar systems and underwater drones that have changed the rules of the search. The game-changing technology. When you stare into the vastness of the Indian Ocean, it feels endless. Waves roll across thousands of kilometers, and beneath that surface lies a world so deep and uncharted that it is often called Earth's final frontier. This is the environment where Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 is believed to have disappeared, an area so hostile and immense that it has defeated every previous search effort. Yet now, for the first time, technology may have finally caught up with the scale of the mystery. Leading the way is a new vessel called the Armada 7806. Built in Norway in 2023, this ship represents the cutting edge of marine engineering. Stretching 78 meters from bow to stern, it is a floating command center, designed not only to endure the punishing conditions of the open ocean, but also to serve as the launch platform for some of the most advanced underwater technology ever created.
Armada 7806 changed course overnight.
Its sleek frame and streamlined systems are the backbone of a new era in deep-sea exploration. At the heart of the Armada 7806's mission are its autonomous underwater vehicles, known as AUVs. Manufactured by Kongsberg, a Norwegian company with decades of experience in subsea technology, these drones are the true workhorses of the search. Each one measures 6.2 meters in length, roughly the size of a small bus. Yet inside, they carry instruments powerful enough to map and scan the seabed with stunning accuracy. The numbers alone are staggering. These AUVs can dive to depths of 6,000 meters, nearly 4 miles down, reaching places where pressure could crush a conventional submarine. Once deployed, each drone can operate for up to 100 hours on a single mission, silently gliding through the darkness as it sweeps its sensors across the ocean floor. Their endurance and range mean they can cover vast areas of seabed in a fraction of the time it once took. What makes these machines truly revolutionary is the sonar suite they carry. This is not one single tool, but an array of specialized instruments, each designed to capture a different layer of detail. The first of these is the side-scan sonar, which sends out powerful acoustic pulses to sweep wide sections of the ocean floor. It is ideal for detecting large objects, whether they are rocks, wreckage, or other debris scattered across the seabed. Next is the synthetic aperture sonar. This is the jewel of the system. While side-scan covers distance, synthetic aperture sonar creates imagery with remarkable clarity, so sharp it can reveal details measured in centimeters. In a world where wreckage might be half-buried or distorted by time, this kind of resolution is essential. The third tool is the multi-beam sonar, which builds three-dimensional maps of the ocean floor. By combining thousands of beams at once, it generates topographic models that reveal every ridge, trench, and crater in striking detail. This is the technology that transforms raw ocean data into landscapes researchers can navigate as if they were walking on the seabed itself. Finally, there is the sub-bottom profiler. If wreckage lies buried beneath silt or sediment, this instrument can pierce below the surface of the seabed. By sending low-frequency sound waves deep into the layers below, it reveals shapes and structures hidden from ordinary sonar. In effect, it can look beneath the ocean floor, a capability that could prove decisive if MH370 lies concealed beneath years of sediment. But technology doesn't stop at collection. It's about how the information is used. The workflow behind these AUVs is as sophisticated as the machines themselves. Once deployed, each drone moves independently, scanning vast grids of the ocean floor. They work like an underwater swarm, covering sections in parallel while constantly recording sonar data. When their missions end, the drones return to the Armada 7806, where their data is merged into a composite map. Each pass adds detail, sharpening the picture of the seabed with every sweep. If an anomaly is spotted, something that doesn't fit the natural landscape, the process begins again, only this time with greater precision. The drones are redeployed, this time carrying high-definition cameras and powerful lights to capture visual confirmation of what lies below. Step by step, mystery is turned into evidence. But this capability is not theoretical. Ocean Infinity, the company operating the Armada 7806, and its fleet of AUVs has already proven what these tools can do. In 2017, the company made headlines when it located the wreck of the Argentine submarine ARA San Juan, which had vanished a year earlier with 44 crew members aboard. The search area was immense, the ocean floor complex, yet Ocean Infinity's technology found the submarine at a depth of nearly 900 meters. In another mission, their drones helped locate a United States Navy vessel from World War II, again demonstrating their ability to operate in some of the most difficult underwater environments on Earth. These successes are proof of concept and evidence that this technology can reach where human divers and conventional ships cannot. Now, Ocean Infinity has turned its attention back to MH370, and this time, they are deploying their most advanced arsenal yet. The Armada 7806 and its drones represent the most powerful combination of sonar, endurance, and data processing ever committed to the search. In the face of one of aviation's greatest mysteries, the tools are finally equal to the task. Past searches, though extensive, often struggled with limitations, gaps in coverage, missed anomalies, or sheer exhaustion of resources left them with nothing but silence. However, right now, the technology can sweep wider areas, return sharper images, and revisit anomalies with unmatched accuracy. Every tool is designed for one purpose: to ensure nothing escapes detection. But even the most advanced tools mean little without the will to use them. The promise of this technology has set the stage for something bigger: a possible resumption of the search, renewed and determined, armed with a fleet built for discovery. Recent search efforts. In December 2024, the Malaysian government approved a new search effort, the most ambitious since the early years of the investigation. This decision opened the door to what could be the final act of this global mystery. The arrangement was unique. The government signed off on a mission under a no-find, no-fee contract with Ocean Infinity. In practical terms, it meant the company would cover the immense cost of the operation themselves, but if they succeeded in locating the wreckage, they stood to receive a payout of $70 million. This was an opportunity for Ocean Infinity to cement their reputation as the world's foremost deep-sea search organization, while also offering closure to families who had waited more than a decade for answers. The stakes could not be higher. The financial reward, the professional prestige, and the chance to solve one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. The new mission officially began on February 25, 2025. The target was a carefully defined section of the Indian Ocean, about 15,000 square kilometers in size, positioned to the west of Perth, Australia. This location was not chosen randomly. It represented the convergence of multiple streams of evidence: Refined satellite data that tracked MH370's final electronic handshakes with Inmarsat satellites, drift modeling that mapped where debris had washed up on the shores of Africa and the Indian Ocean islands, and the recently reported sonar anomalies that hinted at something unnatural on the seabed. This was uncharted territory in every sense. The Indian Ocean in that region is notorious for its unforgiving weather, shifting currents, and unpredictable swells. Even with state-of-the-art technology, every deployment of an autonomous drone or every pass of the Armada 7806 carried risks. But the timing of this mission couldn't be more perfect. Advances in data analysis have sharpened the search area to levels of confidence not possible a decade ago. What once looked like an infinite search grid had been narrowed down to a zone with genuine promise. Families had never stopped pressing for answers, but in recent years, their voices had grown louder, amplified by online campaigns, public events, and direct appeals to government officials. The 11-year mark since the disappearance brought fresh media attention, reminding the world that the mystery was still unsolved. Against this backdrop, the Malaysian government could not afford to let the case slip quietly into history. This combination of public pressure, scientific progress, and Ocean Infinity's unmatched capabilities created the conditions for a new chapter to begin.
The disappearance of flight MH370 is one of the biggest mysteries in modern aviation history. Let's remind you of the story.
But the ocean is not easily conquered. As the weeks passed, the search pressed deeper into the abyss, scanning ridge after ridge, trench after trench, mapping every anomaly, and building composite images of the seabed. The technology worked with precision, but nature had its own timetable. By April 2025, the seasonal ocean conditions in the southern Indian Ocean had become too harsh for safe operations. Waves rose to dangerous heights, and the unpredictable weather made further progress impossible. The mission was temporarily paused, with the expectation that it would resume later in the year when conditions improved. This pause did not mean the effort had failed. On the contrary, it was a reminder of the sheer difficulty of the task. To search for MH370 is to battle not only against time and uncertainty, but also against one of the most formidable environments on Earth. The pause was a strategic decision, allowing Ocean Infinity to preserve resources, protect equipment, and prepare for the next phase. When the search resumes, it will do so with the advantage of all the data gathered so far, every sweep of sonar, every anomaly logged, and every detail fed back into the growing picture of the seabed. The world is watching, because the implications reach beyond the loss of one aircraft. MH370 has become a symbol of vulnerability in modern aviation. A reminder that even in an era of satellites and constant connectivity, a plane carrying hundreds of people can vanish without explanation. To solve the mystery now, after more than a decade of silence, would not only bring closure, but also restore confidence that the truth, however deeply buried, can still be found. And yet, even as the search edges closer to answers, another question lingers in the shadows. Because if the wreckage is found, the story will not end there. The world still demands to know why. What chain of decisions, what sequence of events, could have led to the deliberate or accidental destruction of a modern jetliner in one of the most remote corners of the planet? That question dives straight into the realm of theories, suspicions, and the chilling possibilities of what really happened on board MH370. What might have happened? The search may uncover the wreckage of MH370, but even that would not silence the greatest question of all. What really happened that night? Over the years, several theories have emerged, some grounded in evidence, others driven by speculation. But each offers a different lens through which to view the tragedy, and each carries its own chilling possibilities. One of the earliest and most widely discussed explanations is known as the ghost flight hypothesis. According to this scenario, MH370 suffered a cabin depressurization event while flying over the South China Sea or early in its diversion into the Indian Ocean. If the aircraft lost pressure at cruising altitude, the oxygen masks would have provided only a short window of breathable air for passengers. In the cockpit, the pilots would have had slightly more time thanks to the extended oxygen supply, but without a rapid descent, even they could have succumbed to hypoxia, which refers to unconsciousness caused by lack of oxygen. If this occurred, the 777 could have continued flying under the control of its autopilot, maintaining its heading until its fuel tanks finally ran dry. At that point, the engines would have flamed out, and the aircraft would have descended uncontrollably into the ocean. Supporters of this theory argue that it fits with the so-called zombie flight path, where the plane flew for hours after losing contact. However, the main weakness lies in the evidence of deliberate course changes. MH370 did not simply fly straight on, it executed complex turns, including one back across the Malay Peninsula, which strongly suggests human input long after the initial event. This leads to the second and perhaps most controversial theory that suggests the pilot, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, deliberately commandeered the flight, flying it into one of the remotest parts of the planet as an act of calculated destruction.
This video is to be used to optimize your...
Supporting this theory is a piece of evidence uncovered by the FBI when they examined Zahari's home flight simulator. On it, they found a route that included a trajectory strikingly similar to the suspected crash zone in the southern Indian Ocean. While the simulator route was not identical, its resemblance was unsettling enough to suggest that Zahari may have rehearsed aspects of the flight path. Investigators have never confirmed Zahari's intentions beyond doubt, but the theory refuses to fade. Proponents argue that the controlled and deliberate maneuvers carried out in the early stages of the disappearance bear the mark of a skilled pilot rather than a mechanical failure. If true, MH370 would join a tragic list of flights brought down by the very people entrusted to keep them safe. A third explanation is the controlled ditching theory, supported by figures such as Dr. Vincent Lyne and veteran crash investigator Larry Vance. They argue that the evidence of debris damage, particularly pieces recovered from the shores of Africa and the islands of the western Indian Ocean, points toward a deliberate water landing rather than a chaotic crash. Certain fragments, they claim, show signs of minimal shattering, as though the aircraft was set down on the water with intent, rather than breaking apart violently on impact. Beyond these dominant theories, more speculative ideas have circulated, fueled by the sheer strangeness of the event. Among them is the possibility of hijacking or military interception. Some have suggested that cyber hijackers could have remotely seized control of the aircraft, overriding its systems and guiding it off course. Others have whispered about the chance of a military involvement, an accident covered up to avoid international scandal. Yet, despite the circulation of such claims, investigators have found no physical evidence to support them. While these ideas remain part of the conversation, they rest more on imagination than on verifiable fact. What complicates every theory is the sheer absence of conventional tracking data. Radar coverage fades once an aircraft moves far from land, and over the southern Indian Ocean, there were no listening posts to monitor MH370's progress. Instead, investigators have relied on satellite handshakes, which are automated signals exchanged between the aircraft and Inmarsat satellites. These arcs of data gave a rough outline of the jet's final path, but not enough to pinpoint an exact crash site. For years, this gap left the world groping in the dark. Recently, however, a new tool has emerged: the Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, or WSPR network. Originally developed for amateur radio, WSPR uses low-frequency signals to measure how radio waves travel around the globe. These signals, constantly bouncing across the atmosphere, can sometimes register disturbances caused by aircraft crossing their paths. Researchers have begun to analyze WSPR data from March 2014, aligning it with MH370's suspected course. The results, while still under debate, have provided fresh refinement to the flight's trajectory, offering an independent line of evidence to support satellite and drift analyses. The ocean has not given up its answers, but the search continues with renewed vigor, bringing us closer to the moment when speculation may finally give way to certainty. In fact, right now, the results of the immediate efforts to comb through the Indian Ocean are unfolding in ways no one expected. The search that pushed human limits. In the years following the disappearance, more than 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor were scanned in the hunt for the missing Boeing 777. This was not a single-country effort. It was a multinational collaboration involving Malaysia, Australia, and China, and support from experts and agencies across the globe. The mission became one of the most complex operations in the history of aviation, an undertaking that rivaled space exploration in its ambition. The cost was staggering. Estimates place the combined expense of all phases of the search at more than $150 million. Ships, aircraft, technology, and manpower were poured into the southern Indian Ocean, a region so remote that the nearest land was often thousands of kilometers away. Every day of the search meant fuel, equipment, wages, and logistical support on a scale few nations had attempted before. The arsenal of tools brought to the task was immense. Teams relied on sonar mapping to scan the seabed, satellite imagery to refine the flight's path, and drift modeling to predict where debris might wash ashore. One of the most unusual aspects of the search was the involvement of the public through a program called TomNod. Using crowdsourced analysis of satellite photos
was the satellite pictures that we're seeing, and that there can't really show us what that stuff is.
Millions of people worldwide scoured images of the ocean, hoping to identify signs of floating wreckage. It was an unprecedented moment in aviation history. The world's largest crowdsourcing effort, united by a single goal to find the missing plane. The first real breakthrough came in July 2015, more than a year after the disappearance, when a barnacle-encrusted flaperon washed ashore on Réunion Island, east of Madagascar. This was the first confirmed piece of MH370, the first physical proof that the aircraft had indeed ended in the Indian Ocean. In the years that followed, several other fragments were recovered across the coasts of Africa and the islands of the western Indian Ocean. Yet, while these fragments confirmed the general fate of the jet, they could not pinpoint the final crash site. The search timeline is marked by both determination and heartbreak. By January 2017, after years of effort, the official search was suspended. The governments leading the mission announced that no further progress could be made without new evidence. For many families, the realization that after 3 years of intense searching, the ocean had given up nothing but silence was devastating. But the story did not end there. In 2018, the private company Ocean Infinity launched its own mission, deploying advanced autonomous underwater vehicles across a massive swath of seabed. Their efforts covered 112 square kilometers, scanning ridge after ridge, trench after trench. Despite the sophistication of their methods, the mission ended without success. Once again, the ocean kept its secrets. That same year, the Malaysian government released what it called its final report on the disappearance. It was hundreds of pages long, filled with technical details, data analysis, and witness accounts. Yet it offered no conclusive answers. Investigators could not say definitively what caused the disappearance or where the aircraft had come to rest. For the families, the report was another bitter reminder that the mystery remained intact. Still, the search itself cannot be dismissed as a failure. It mapped enormous sections of ocean floor never before charted, revealing geological formations, underwater ridges, and ecosystems previously unknown to science. It demonstrated the limits of current technology and highlighted the challenges of deep-sea exploration. In a strange way, the hunt for MH370 advanced human knowledge of the planet's oceans almost as much as it pursued the wreck itself. The human cost, however, was undeniable. Every suspension of the search, every pause for lack of evidence, left families in limbo. The fragments found on distant shores offered confirmation of loss, but no closure. The sheer scale of the operation showed the world how far humanity was willing to go in pursuit of answers, and yet how elusive the truth could remain. Now, with new technology, refined data, and fresh determination, the search has resumed once more. But the question is no longer whether we can search deeper or wider than before. It's about what happens if the wreckage is finally found. What secrets will the remains of MH370 reveal? And will they be enough to close the chapter on this haunting mystery? What if it's found? The discovery of MH370 would mean a long-awaited moment of closure. For over a decade, families have lived in the shadow of uncertainty, caught between hope and despair. To know the plane's final resting place would not erase the grief, but it would end the limbo. Funerals could be held with certainty, and children who grew up without answers would finally have a story to hold on to. But for aviation safety, the stakes are just as high. The recovery of the flight data and cockpit voice recorders and the black boxes could unravel what really happened inside the aircraft during its final hours. Were the pilots incapacitated? Was there a mechanical failure hidden deep within the systems? Or was it deliberate action?
Does know more or can see more than we're seeing as...
The answers could rewrite safety protocols worldwide. If MH370 fell to a flaw in design or communication, manufacturers would be forced to address it. If it was deliberate sabotage, new layers of cockpit security could emerge. Even the tracking of planes could be revolutionized, ensuring that no aircraft can ever vanish again in the same way. But there's also the legal and ethical fallout. The discovery of the wreckage would inevitably trigger lawsuits and accountability battles. Families could press for compensation if evidence pointed to negligence or oversight. Governments might be forced to confront uncomfortable truths about the initial handling of the disappearance, including delays in communication and coordination. Policy reforms could follow, reshaping how air traffic is monitored over oceans, how emergencies are reported, and how international searches are funded. The day MH370 is found will be one of mourning, revelation, and transformation all at once. The world would gain answers, families would gain closure, and aviation would gain lessons written in the black boxes. But perhaps, most importantly, humanity would close the chapter on one of the most haunting enigmas of our time. What do you think happened to Flight MH370? Tell us in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.